Are you confused about the different types of evaluation? In this video, I'm going to go over 3 types of evaluation: summative, formative, and developmental evaluation. If you don't want to miss a video, make sure to subscribe. This channel is all about helping you build your data and evaluation capacity so that you can have a data-informed culture. Now, there is a variety of ways to categorize evaluations and a lot of different names out there. Sometimes people categorize evaluation or name different evaluation types based on what is being evaluated. So you might have things like program evaluation or policy evaluation. Sometimes people use terms based on the approach that is being taken. So you might have things like empowerment evaluation or participatory evaluation, or even things like realistic evaluation and appreciative inquiry. You also have evaluation names or categorization systems based on what the focus of the evaluation is. So things like process evaluation, outcome evaluation. What we're going to talk about in this video is the categorization that helps us understand the purpose of the evaluation. So is it formative, is it summative, or is it developmental? Let me know in the comments below if there's a particular type of evaluation you want me to make a video on. Summative evaluation is the sort of evaluation you do when you are trying to make a final judgment or decision about a thing, so like a program, an initiative, a policy, whatever is being evaluated. You do this because you are trying to make a decision like continue funding it or deciding not to fund it anymore, or whether you're trying to decide whether that program, initiative, or policy or thing should be expanded or moved to other contexts. This requires that you have something that is very well defined. So you have a program that is no longer being adjusted, or a policy whose implementation is very clear, it's standardized. You are no longer making changes to it, and the purpose of this sort of evaluation is not to figure out where to improve, but to make a final decision. You're usually doing this type of evaluation to collect evidence that you can share with external audiences. You might be collecting data related to outcomes and processes, particularly outcomes that are very long-term or intermediate, and you're interested in understanding or collecting data that will help you make that decision. Truly summative evaluation is actually pretty rare because you're almost always seeking to make improvements on your program, policy, or whatever it is you are collecting data on. Formative evaluation is the sort of evaluation you do because you want to make improvements or adjustments to an existing program, initiative, project, whatever it is you are evaluating. You're collecting the data so that you can help internal stakeholders more often do some decision makings about what sort of changes or adjustments will make your programs more effective. And if you're curious to learn more about stakeholders, I did a video on how to do a stakeholder analysis, so check that out. But generally, you're collecting this information to make those improvements or adjustments. You're probably collecting data on processes, or you might be even collecting data on short-term outcomes or intermediate-term outcomes. Again, the purpose of this sort of evaluation is to understand what improvements and adjustments to make to an existing program. So it doesn't mean that the program has to be completely standardized, but you probably already have it pretty well established. It's pretty well defined. You know the general steps that are going to take place when you're implementing the program or policy. You're just trying to focus in on what adjustments to make to something that is already existing. Now, there is a sort of in-between phase between formative and summative, and it's called summary formative, and it's described in Marvin Elkin's book, Evaluation Essentials. This is a sort of evaluation you might do for an end-of-year report where you are making a judgment or a decision about a program, initiative, but it is not a final judgment, or a final decision. However, because most people haven't heard of this sort of evaluation, they call it summative. Developmental evaluation is the sort of evaluation you might engage in if you are trying to develop a new initiative or a new innovation, or you are trying to explore emerging ideas or potential solutions to a complex problem, or if you're trying to take an existing program or innovation or project and adapt it to a new context. So in this sort of evaluation, you're interested in collecting data that will help you develop something potentially completely new. Your evaluator here is more than someone that just collects data and hands you a report. They actually serve as a thought partner. This is the sort of evaluation you might engage in if you're open to a lot of potential possibilities and open to making changes and are interested in exploring what emerges. Developmental evaluation is particularly well suited for those of you who might be doing some sort of collective impact work because you're collecting data on potential solutions constantly. And when you're in a collective impact initiative, it usually means that you're open to including more partners and maybe starting new projects along the way. If you're interested in collective impact, let me know in the comments below and I can make a video about that topic alone. Developmental evaluation is also a great fit if you're doing some sort of systems change. Now, I've done a video on systems change in the past, so you could check that out, but systems change is usually a very complex sort of work. So developmental evaluation is a sort of thing that sort of fits into it very easily. Robert Stake has a soup analogy that he uses to help us understand the difference between formative evaluation and summative evaluation. In formative evaluation, in our soup analogy, you're like the cook tasting the soup. You're deciding whether or not to add an extra pinch of salt, maybe add some more spices. In summative evaluation, you're handing the soup over to your customer and you're having them tell you how delicious the soup is and whether or not it helped cure their hunger. Now, if we expand this analogy into developmental evaluation, we might be deciding what soup to make or whether or not we even should be making soups and whether we should even be giving dishes to people. Maybe there's another option that might help relieve hunger better, like meal kits. Don't forget to get my guide on how to collect meaningful data. You can get that by joining my mailing list. And once you're on that mailing list, I send you regular resources. In that guide, I cover things like how to develop a theory of change, and that's always useful. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss upcoming videos. I have a lot of videos in the works. For example, I'm still working on a video on how to do a data party, which is always fun. And if you did find this useful, make sure to let me know in the comments below and share this video with your friends or your other nonprofit colleagues. Don't forget to watch some of the other videos I made as well. For example, I have a video on what evaluation is. I also have a video on how to develop a logic model and how to do a theory of change.